Can you remember a moment of your life that changed the way you saw things, that impacted your perspective? I've had a few personally, one of which happened with a 12-year-old boy on a basketball court. I had the privilege of volunteering in this sports program that empowers neurodivergent and impaired kids, and they're using sports to do so. And I remember, full disclosure, working with those kids, I typically learn more from them than they do from me. That Saturday was a perfect example of that. I am walking to the score table where the kids are checking in, and I see this kid. And this kid is just so excited to be there. You know, they're kind of excited, you're kind of jittery, you know. And as I'm walking closer to that kid, I realize that he's physically blind. Now, I purposefully choose to emphasize the fact that he's physically blind because, as you'll soon find out, that kid has more vision than most people I know. So I walk over to him, introduce myself, ask him if he wants to go pass the ball. I'm thinking we're just going to be standing next to each other and hand the ball to each other. He tells me no. I want to go shoot. One thing that I learned working with neurodivergent kids or impaired kids is that I can't let my unbelief in the things that I think is going to limit them actually do so. So I make a decision to take him to the basketball pole. He asked me to figure out where the pole is. He takes the ball, bounces the ball on the basketball pole, takes a few steps back, and starts shooting baskets. Now I have to tell him a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the right, shoot that one a little longer. But he's making shots, and I am amazed. Now time comes for a scrimmage, and he leans over to me and he tells me, you know, I've never played in a scrimmage before. I've been part of different basketball programs, and my coach always told me that he was going to let me in, but he never did. So I take him by the hand, and I tell him we're going to go through this together. Make sure he's positioned right, talk him through the scrimmage, score is tied, he gets the ball, I make sure it's in the right position, he shoots it, winning baskets. Amazing moment. That's the power of perspective. Being blind didn't limit his vision because he had the right perspective. Simply put, perspective is our ability to see things in the right way. And our perspective, the way we're going to live our lives, if we have the right one, is going to define what's possible and what's not possible. So if we have the right perspective, we can actually become what we believe. Now, when we think about perspective, when we think about life, there's a different way to see life. And I want us to reflect on what's our lens, what's our current perspective. Is it healthy or is it unhealthy? If we have a healthy lens and a healthy way of seeing life, then everything around us is going to seem bright. But if our lenses are darkened, then we're going to see ourselves, we're going to see the world, and we're going to see people in it in the dark way. Now, when I think about my life and when I think about a lot of people that I work with, I think there's one thing that can affect our perspective and darken our lens more than anything else. And that's unprocessed pain. Growing up, my mother battled cancer. And I recall this one time where I thought she was going to go in to the hospital for a simple checkup. Because of some complications, she had to stay there later than expected, longer than expected. And I remember this one morning, 7 days later, where my sister wakes me up. And she tells me that we have to rush to the hospital. So we rush to the hospital. As soon as I get there, I tell my mom that we're here. And I see her take her last breath right in front of me. And she dies. The very next day was my 13th birthday. I felt so broken inside. I chose to suppress the pain. I did not know what else to do with it. Friends, family, they told me you should talk about it, you should express it, you should let it out, but I already felt at such a low point in my life. I thought that talking about it and not suppressing it would only make me feel worse. So I did my best to distract myself with whatever I could. I told myself that I will never let anyone else get closer to me again, because if I do, I'm going to risk experience that kind of pain again, and I don't want to have to go through that anymore. So what I did instead is I learned how to use. I use people, I use substances, I use anything to make me escape my reality. But whenever distractions were gone, the grief still remained. Unprocessed pain will distort our perspective. Now, maybe you've been through something completely different in life. But I know one thing is for sure, we've all experienced pain. And pain can come from different places. Pain sometimes comes from our own wrongdoings and the choices that we make. Other times, pain comes from harm other people cause us. Or it can just come from life and the unfortunate circumstances that life brings. But regardless of how it comes, we have a choice to make when we feel pain. And we have to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to suppress the pain, like I chose to do at a young age? Or are we going to make a decision to open up and be honest about the pain so that we can find some healing? And I'll be honest with you. Suppressing it at first, easy. Way easier. But later down the line, we end up paying the price. And not only that, but the people around us pay the price. Because the thing is, if we don't learn how to deal with pain in a healthy way, we're going to cause pain around us, whether we want it or not. Now, dealing with pain at first is going to be really hard. Being honest and vulnerable about the pain, it's not easy. But later down the line, if we persevere and we stick to it, it changes everything. Jay-Z, the rapper, once said, "You can't heal what you never reveal." And I want us to think about what's one thing in our life right now that we need to heal from. What's the pain that we're made a decision to suppress and not deal with? And how is this stopping us from healing? The meaning of life, Viktor Frankl, we'll get to this in just a second. But before we do, I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the power of transparency and the power of healing. I remember having a conversation with one of my friends who started opening up about his life. And as he opened up about his life, he told me about things that happened in his past. He told me about things he had done. He had told me about the way he thought about things. And I'll be honest, it was a little weird to me, but it was so relieving in part because I realized in that moment that I wasn't alone. That the things that I thought no one else would ever think that way, I was like, wow, this person is telling me the exact same thing. Like some of the things that happened to him that I only thought happened to me, because he made a decision to be honest, there was a power and a connection that was formed right there. And that helped shift my perspective. When I think about the last few years of my life, my family and I have been through our share of pain. My wife had a miscarriage in her second trimester, and we ended up losing our son. I also recall having to rush my wife to the hospital, to the emergency room for a life-threatening situation. And same thing with my daughter. My daughter had some serious health issues that were life-threatening, and not once but twice I had to rush her to the hospital. And I remember taking her in the hospital room, rushing into the ER, holding her in my arm and feeling so out of control. And I'll be honest with you, I did not always handle the pain the right way. But when I did, I saw that there was an opportunity not only for myself, but to help those around me. Viktor Frankl is a world-famous author and Holocaust survivor, often talked about how we can learn how to find meaning throughout pain and suffering. And he has this quote that says, "The meaning of life is to help others find meaning in theirs." And a few months back, I recall having a business meeting where I met this person for the very first time, and we're getting to know each other. We're talking about our lives, small talk at first. But I made a decision for some reason to start pushing the talk a little further and be honest about the things that were actually going on in my life. Not just, how you doing? I'm doing great. How are you? I'm doing awesome. We had a real conversation, and I opened up about some of the challenges that we were going through over the last few years. And to my amazement, he shared that he had gone through the exact same thing. Now, in that moment, my circumstances hadn't changed. I still didn't have all the answers that I wanted to help my family members with their health. But my perspective shifted, and I realized I'm not alone anymore. See, learning how to have the right perspective is not just about ourselves. It's believing that when we change our perspective, we can not only learn to see the world differently, but we can help other people do the same thing. And what that does is that it unlocks our purpose. And if we're going to go through pain, we might as well use it to help someone else. So whether it can be simple as being with a boy on the basketball court, or having an honest conversation with a friend, or making a decision to open up about your life and realizing in that moment that we're not alone, those simple decisions can shift our perspective. And if enough of us make a decision to have the right perspective, the world itself becomes a better place. Thank you.